Okay, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The K-Water and Asia World Council side event under the title of Catalyzing Cross-sectoral cooperation to address the climate change, focusing on water sector, will begin shortly. So from now on, the K-Water and AWC Asia World Council side event will be officially begin. My name is Yong-Han Kim, Executive Director of Asia World Council and General Manager of K-Water. On behalf of this session organizer, K-Water and AWC, it's a really great pleasure to welcome all of you. If I briefly explain today's session's concept and expected outcomes, we noticed that innovative water management technology for low energy and carbon neutrality are essential and needed to be spread globally. It will be a great opportunity for cooperation and knowledge sharing cross-sectoral among various industry and players in the global community beyond the water sector to address climate change issues. We will seek ways to provide support to vulnerable areas, classes in the climate changes and water sector around the world. Let me explain our agenda, today's agenda. Opening and keynote speech. After the keynote speech, we will have our commemorative photo sessions, and then we will panel discussion. To begin with, let me invite the president, the CEO of K-Water and the president of AWC, Dr. Seok-dae Yoon. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I am Seok-dae Yoon, CEO of K-Water. I extend my sincere gratitude to Kim Ho-hun, Ambassador for Climate Change of Korea, Sulon Naimjoda, Executive IPAS, Chairman of IPAS, as well as all attendees to join us for this session. Today's session brings together experts from various fields, including government, international organizations, MDB, and further funder to promote cross-sectoral cooperation in energy and water to overcome the climate crisis and discuss ways to realize neutral water management. K-Water has promoted global cooperation to expand the use of eco-friendly renewable energies and realize carbon neutrality based on its cutting-edge water technologies such as AI and digital twins and expertise. K-Water has completed 146 ODA projects in 42 countries and is implementing 25 ODA projects and 6 investment projects in 2023. K-Water will continue to cooperate with governments, international organizations, and MDB to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change. In addition, K-Water will actively promote new green ODA and investment projects. I hope that through this session, we can all accelerate our efforts to overcome climate crisis and secure sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO. Now we will move on to keynote speech. We are very honored to have two distinguished speakers today. First, let me invite Ms. Hyo-eun Kim, Ambassador and Deputy Minister for Climate Change, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. Ambassador Hyo-eun Kim is Ambassador and Deputy Minister for Climate Change in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea since July 2021. She is also a chief negotiator of UNFCCC Paris Agreement. She was Deputy Director General of Global Green Growth Institute in 2016. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. So, Excellencies, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it's my great pleasure to be here this morning participating in this meaningful session about the nexus between climate change and water. I would like to express my strong thanks to Mr. Yoon Seok-dae, President and CEO of K-Water, and the Asian Water Council for organizing this event. And I'm very pleased to explain about what Korean government is doing in order to enhance the effectively addressing water and climate change nexus. We all know that water and climate change are very closely interlinked because many climate crises actually demonstrate the crisis in the form of water crisis. Just to think about the most frequent negative consequences of climate change. So flood, drought, heavy rainfalls, all those things are the negative consequences of climate change, and they are coming in the form of water. So climate change and water are very closely interlinked. Last summer, thousands of people were killed and 33 million people were displaced in Pakistan because of the unprecedented flooding. I vividly remember what UNFCCC parties discussed, particularly in the discussion of loss and damage last year. So Pakistan, the representative of Pakistan, they appealed to UNFCCC members to agree on loss and damage fund because 33 million Pakistanis, they are suffering from loss and damage. So loss and damage is real, and loss and damage has science as well. So we finally agreed the establishment of loss and damage fund. Korea is not the exception as well. So last year, one part in Gangnam area in Seoul metropolitan city, actually people died. I couldn't believe that in the middle of downtown of Korea, people died because of unexpected heavy rainfalls and because of floodings. Those things are happening all over the world. Therefore, water crisis, climate crisis due to the water that doesn't just differentiate the countries, that doesn't differentiate the level of development. That's global issue. And those difficulties, those challenges will make water management increasingly important. And that's why we all together this morning to discuss how to effectively address water element in climate change. I believe water is a cross-cutting issue in all climate discussions. Many people just easily assume that water is an adaptation issue. However, I have different view because in order to supply water, you need energy as well. So water is deeply, closely related to the mitigation. And to properly, effectively manage water, and water infrastructure as well, you need technology, you need money as well. Therefore, water is at the same time finance and technology issue. Therefore, when we discuss about how to effectively address climate change consequences in the UNFCCC, we have to focus on water as well, because water is just across the subjects. Climate disasters are more serious in developing countries. We all know that. Advanced economies, developed countries, they have technology, they have money, they have means to protect their people in case of unexpected climate crisis. However, many developing countries, they are suffering from the lack of proper means of responsiveness. Therefore, international collaboration, partnership, capacity building, collaboration are crucial to work together for supporting developing countries' capacity in addressing water issues in climate change. Let me briefly mention what Korea is doing in climate action. Korea is one of the countries who set very, very ambitious greenhouse gas emission reduction target by 2030. Our target of reducing 40% of greenhouse gas emission by 2030 based on the year of 2018. That's very, very ambitious one, because Korea has more than 50 million population, and we have very strong manufacturing sector. Therefore, 40% cut of greenhouse gas emission means we are going to completely shift from fossil fuel-based economy to green economy based on new resources, new power, and new technology. We introduced emission trading system long time ago, almost 10 years ago. We introduced emission trading system. So we gave caps to companies. Our emission trading system, KETS, it covers more than 70% of Korea's emission. Therefore, all internationally well-known companies like Samsung Electronics, Hyundai Motors, SK or LG, they have caps in emitting greenhouse gas emissions. Now we are working very hard to make our KETS targets consistent with our NDC target for 2030. In climate change negotiation, Korea is also playing a very constructive role. Some of you know that Korea is in the group of environmental integrity group, which is called EIG. So Switzerland, Mexico, Korea, and small countries like Monaco, Liechtenstein, and Georgia are the members of group. When you see the composition of this group, we have developed countries, developing countries, and we have countries from Asia, from Europe, from Latin America, even from Eastern Europe. So this group is indeed representing the globalness of UN climate change discussions. Therefore, even inside of our group, when we discuss together about our strategy in addressing fossil fuels, in addressing just transition, even in addressing adaptation, we can see very different views. We can see different circumstances of different countries. And in our efforts to bring about compromise, bring about a soft landing zone, then we are really playing the role of bridging the gap between developed and developing countries. Let me touch upon what Korea is particularly doing regarding water, because today's topic is climate change and water nexus. The Ministry of Environment and K-Water are building a multidimensional surveillance system utilizing ground observation networks and satellites improving flood-related forecasting system to respond to extreme weather events in Korea, and enhancing response capabilities. Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs and K-Water are very proactive in working with other countries as well, particularly working with other developing countries. Therefore, Korea is supporting many developing countries. If I just pick up one example, we have Green Rehabilitation Investment Project for the Karakal, Pakistan Republic to address the impact of the RRC crisis. We all know that RRC, it's a symbol of climate crisis, water crisis. Actually, I visited that area, and former UN Secretary General Mr. Ban Ki-moon, he visited that site twice. So when Uzbekistan delegation visited Korea, we had a discussion how to support Uzbekistan in effectively dealing with RRC issues. So Korea Global Green Growth Institute is an intergovernmental organization with more than 40 member countries, and Uzbekistan government, we discussed all together to develop good project funded by KOICA, Korea International Cooperation Agency, to support the people in that region. This is the model how to help sustainable development in the devastated area, and how to help the people in that area to improve their livelihood through water, climate change response, and agriculture nexus. The Republic of Korea believes that technology can provide many solutions. I know technology cannot be a silver bullet. However, it can provide many, many solutions. That's why Korea is strongly investing in developing innovative new technologies. We have a Climate Technology Center Network Liaison Office in Songdo. So we want to promote the knowledge and information sharing among countries about technology. Technology cooperation and technology transfer are important elements to be included in the Global Stocktake Outcome document, which currently member states are very toughly negotiating. So let me just to conclude my remarks with slightly touching upon where we are about the about the COP28 cover decision, which is Global Stocktake Outcome document. As we all know, this year is very, very meaningful year because we are taking global stocktake. So we are assessing the last 8 years from the adoption of Paris Agreement in 2015 up to date, and we are going to plan what we will do together by 2030. Many, many things are still under discussion. However, if I just to pick up several key issues, number one is about fossil fuels. What we are going to do with the fossil fuels. We have a language in the draft. Phase out, phase down, or just phase out, just phase down, equitable phase out, phase down. Many, many languages are going around. But one agreement among all parties is that we will have fossil fuel language for the first time in COP decisions. The UAE, fossil fuel producing country, is the president now. But UAE has very strong commitment to include fossil fuel language at the final outcome of this COP. If not, this COP will be recorded a failure, if I can boldly say. And we are discussing about next round of NDC. I really want remind everybody of 2035 NDC. NDC must be updated every 5 years. So far, we discussed a lot about NDC targeting the year of 2030. However, now the time is coming for everybody to be prepared for submitting next round NDC targeting 2035. The due date of the NDC, the due date of next NDC is December 31st of 2025. It means we do not have much time. So this GST outcome document must provide guidance to the next round of NDC. We all remember what IPCC recommended. IPCC's sixth assessment report clearly mentioned that in order to keep 1.5 degree ambition within reach, in order to achieve carbon neutrality by the middle of this century, we, global community, must reduce greenhouse gas emission by 60% by 2035. So 60% cut, that's a reference point for every country when they are drafting 2035 NDC. Korea is not the exception as well. Therefore, it's after this COP, the time is coming for all parties to start nationwide, society-wide discussion about the level of ambition of their next NDC. And in that process of next NDC consultation, water must be a critical part. I briefly touched the Loss and Damage Fund at the beginning of my speech. In this COP, on day one, we agreed how to operationalize Loss and Damage Fund. So Loss and Damage Fund will be built in World Bank as an interim measure for 4 years. And immediately, more than like $400 million US mobilized, and up to date, almost $800 million is in the Loss and Damage Fund. It means more and more money will come to this Loss and Damage Fund. Because this fund invites not only governments, but also other non-state players as well. Therefore, philanthropic organizations, even private sector, even an individual can contribute financially to this fund. As Loss and Damage Fund is being set, I think water crisis, water-related issues must be a core element in developing proposals for getting money from this fund. More and more water-related issues to be exposed in loss and damage discussion. So my last message is very clear. Climate change and water, you can separate them as two different issues. Climate change, climate crisis is water crisis, and water crisis will influence climate crisis as well. So let's work together, and then let's be innovative to come up with solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kim, for let us understand the loss and damage deeply and how the water sectors can contribute to cross-sectoral cooperation for the more ambitious NDCs. Now, last not least, let me invite Mr. Sultan Rahimzoda. He served as the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Tajikistan to the Republic of India from 2019 to 2020. And in this September 2020, Mr. Rahimzoda was appointed as the chairman of the EC IFAS, representing the president of Tajikistan as a president of IFAS. Let us welcome him with a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister, Mr. President, distinguished participants. It's my pleasure to join this event, and I would like to thank the organizers for putting at the center of the discussion intersectoral, cross-sectoral cooperation, which is really important. As you know, the cross-sectorality was one of the principles of the preparatory process of the historical UN 2023 Water Conference, successfully co-hosted by Tajikistan and the Netherlands, March this year, with wonderful outcomes, really making the great wave in terms of water. So, and indeed, focus on water is important and very logical, I guess, since Madam Minister mentioned that water sits at the core of the climate action. Water plays an important role both for mitigation action, including the rehabilitation of the freshwater ecosystems, development of hydropower plants. They really play an important role for climate mitigation, reduction of the CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. And when we are talking about the adaptation, also we can say that 80% of our adaptation actions also water related. So that's why putting water at the focus of this discussion for the climate crisis, or addressing the climate crisis, is really important. I guess water has a really the major role in addressing many goals, including we say that it sits at the core of this sustainable development, and without achieving SDG 6, it would be impossible to achieve other SDGs. And during the UN 2023 Water Conference, Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres, also mentioned that we have to go out of water box. We have to look into water not as a resource for our life, but also as a source of energy, food, environment sustainability, and achieving the climate goals. So, unfortunately, we have to say that being so important for achieving climate goals, water was not so visible until the COP26 in Glasgow. For the first time in COP26 in Glasgow, we were able to organize water pavilions. CV, I see Thomas here, the governments of Tajikistan, Netherlands, UK, Germany were among the first partners organizing the water pavilion, bringing water in the climate agenda. Last year in Sharm el-Sheikh, we had some progress, so there was a Water Day. During COP26, also for the first time in the history of the climate COPs, and most importantly, we had the one paragraph in the CAWA decision, negotiated outcome documents of COP, in terms of water playing role for adaptation. And now COP28. After the UN 2023 conference, UAE invited Tajikistan and the Netherlands as a co-host of the UN 2023 Water Conference to co-lead the water work stream of COP28. And I have to say that really we have a very good progress in COP28. What is included in terms of water in the agenda of COP28? The first most important is a Water and Climate Action Summit on 2nd of December, bringing together heads of state and the senior management from MDBs. And in line with the pledges and the commitments from the heads of state, we have basically two major commitments in terms of financial pledges. The first, UAE announced that they will allocate 150 million USD as the commitment of UAE to address the water scarcity issues. And the second, the pledge from MDBs, President of Islamic Development Bank, making statement on behalf of all MDBs, mentioned that they are going to increase to double basically the investments and the number of people receiving the benefit from the projects of MDBs in terms of water by 2026. It's a really good achievement for that. Today we have two ministerial roundtables. Also the first time bringing together the agriculture, food and water together, and you know today is the day dedicated to agriculture, food and water. And the the minister from UAE once again highlighted basically the commitments from UAE, both in terms of water 150 million and 1.2 billion USD in terms of the food. And this afternoon we'll be having another ministerial meeting bringing together environmental ministers in terms of fresh water resiliency. So we have Water Day, we have Water Pavilion, again thanks to CB and other partners, with very bold agenda, bringing water at the heart of the climate discussion here in Dubai. And for us, basically, the most important thing now is a negotiated outcome document. So we are working together with a number of partners, having the bolder position, stronger position of water in the outcome documents. And Madam Minister, we need your support. We need the support of other member states during the negotiations, since it is really difficult when we are talking and making the voluntary commitments pledged, but when it comes to the negotiated documents, it's very difficult. And SDG Summit is an example that it was very difficult even to include the main messages of the UN 2023 Water Conference in the outcome document of the SDG Summit Declaration. So we need your support. We'll appreciate the support of your country and other member states during the negotiation to have bolder position of water there. So then, most importantly, we could bring water in the discussion on the other themes. So the water was part of the discussion on finance, bringing together senior MDBs on nature and water. It was 4th of December, President of the World Bank, President of the ADB, so many other managers coming together to discussing. And Professor Johan Rockström made a very good statement there, also focusing about the science approach, science-based approach. He mentioned that currently they are working to prepare the report about the connectivity or interlinkages between the ecosystems, water, and climate. So that will be the science-based evidence, let's say, for further strengthening the role of water in climate agenda. That is really, really important for us. And on the Energy Day, there was a special event with the minister, participation of the minister, about the water in transition to energy sector. And we fully understand that the energy sector, one of the key, basically challenging sector for the CO2 emissions. And water can play an important role here. 2 years ago, I guess the International Hydropower Association released the report about achieving the net zero goals by 2050 and the role of hydropower, because nowadays it was mentioned that we need to achieve the climate goals by 2030. We need to triple, to increase 3 times the capacity of renewable energy. So, and the water, hydropower plays an important role of that. So we need to increase the energy efficiency. So that is the role of water in hydropower, and it was mentioned by IHA that to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 and the condition of keeping the global warming under 2 degrees of Celsius, so we need 850 gigawatt additional capacity for hydropower, and at that time 500 gigawatt was on the pipeline, so additionally there was a need for 350, while now we have a new goal, it's 1.5 degrees, and to achieve this goal, 1.5 degrees, so additional 600 megawatts. So 500 megawatt on the pipeline and additional 600 gigawatt of hydropower needed to achieve those goals. So this is a role basically of the water in energy sector. So then for finance, I mentioned already the pledge by UAE, by the MDBs, which is really important. We all mark that all these pledges and the commitments will be transformed into real actions on the ground, as you mentioned, Madam Minister, that we have to basically work in this regard. And if until the conference in March, we were talking about the quadrupling our efforts and actions to achieve SDG 6 by 2030, right after that, during the Stockholm meeting of the UN Water, I attended that meeting, and UN Water made an assessment and said, with the current tendency, we have to increase our action on water 6 times to achieve SDG 6 by 2030, which means basically the challenge, even threats, are much faster than our action. That's why really we need action, and we need action today and urgently. So what is the next step basically? One, having the bold agenda in COP28, we need, as I mentioned, the bold position of water in negotiated outcome documents, and then do not stop, of course, here to work with other actors in the future. The first, in this regard, there will be COP29. We don't know yet which country will be hosting, but Tajikistan, the Netherlands, other partners are ready to collaborate, also having such a stronger position of water there. Then, after the UN 2023 Water Conference, the new UNJ resolution on the follow-up of the conference was adopted in September. Thank you very much. I mean that all the member states supported us. The resolution was adopted by consensus, which highlights the need to develop the new UN system-wide strategy on water and sanitation. UN Water has prepared, I guess, the first draft, and the Vice Chair of the UN Water mentioned that by the 15th of December they are going to disseminate the first draft. So we need basically the input from the member states in that discussion to highlight what is our need and how we should act to achieve those goals by 2030, and then what will be the role of water in post-2030 agenda. That's really important, because without water there is no life, so we cannot stop having just 2030, achieving SDGs, and etc. So, and that resolution also highlights the regularity of the UN water meetings, which is really important, because the UN Water Conference in March was the second in the history of the UN, and after 50 years, almost 50 years. The first one was in 1977. So now it is good that having water at the greater focus of the UN, the world community. So we have the Summit of the Future next year. We hope much that the water will be one of the most priority topics in that summit, because we will be discussing again the post-2030 agenda and the role of water in that agenda too. So, we have Dushanbe water process, indeed, supporting the implementation of the International Decade for Action Water for Sustainable Development. We invite all the countries to support our actions, our leadership worldwide, and to support the actions to implement the World Water Action Water Action Agenda of the COP20 of UN 2023 Water Conference to achieve SDG 6 by 2030. So, once again, thank you very much for your attention. I express the willingness of the government of Tajikistan to further cooperate with all partners to keep water at a high priority in the global development agenda. And once again, as Madam Minister mentioned, so we can achieve our goals if we act together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sultan Laimzada. You showed us your insightful speech, and you showed us how the water is becoming more and more the core of the climate resilience. And then you explained the examples of a high-level cross-sectoral cooperation. Now, I'd like to invite our distinguished guest to have a commemorative photo. Please, our guest from ADB, IMI, GCEP, GWP, and CIWI, and the keynote speakers, please come to the stage. We will have a commemorative photo. Okay, thank you. We will set up for the panel discussion. Please be seated and wait for a while. Okay. Wait. Okay. Later. Okay, we are almost ready. Yeah. From now on, there will be a panel discussion. I would like to invite Mr. Alex Simalabui, Executive Secretary of GWP South Africa, Asia and Global Head, Climate Resilience of GWP, to moderate the session. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Mr. Alex, take the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Minister, Special Envoy Ambassador Tajikistan, for a great setting the scene, as well as the CEO of Care Water. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to moderate this very important discussion on catalyzing cross-sectoral cooperation to address the climate crisis, focusing on the water sector. So may I kindly invite our distinguished panelists. We are going to have 40 minutes discussion. Let me invite Mr. Thomas Riberman, if you may kindly take your seat. Mr. Thomas Riberman is the director for the Swedish Waterhouse, Stockholm Water Management Institute. Let me also invite Dr. Yusuf Bozin, head of the MENA office for the International Water Management Institute. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Simon Ben Maraze, lead of technology and infrastructure, International Renewable Energy Agency and Innovation. Thank you. My friend and good brother, Dr. Baboon Fakun, Water Resources Management Specialist at the Green Climate Fund, Senior Specialist. May you kindly join us. And finally, not the least, Dr. Satoshi Ishii, Director for Water and Urban Development at the Asian Development Bank. Yes, may you kindly sit here. So we have 2 roving mics, and our discussion is going to be approximately 40 minutes. So the first round is our distinguished panelists will be requested to provide a 5 to 6 minutes intervention. Based on what you've heard, we had a very good high-level context that has been provided, starting with what Care Water is doing in Korea, a very good overview. Also, we heard from the minister around the practical actions they are taking, as well as, of course, from the Tajikistan on the UN Water Conference, and how the conversations around water and climate are progressing. We're making progress. Now, what we'd like to hear from our experienced panelists here is to share your opinions on the status and cases of catalyzing cross-sectoral cooperation to address the climate crisis in the water sector by your organizations. Very concrete. We'll start with SIWI, Mr. Thomas Rabamak. SIWI has made lots of commitments to the water action agenda with a focus on different ways to strengthen collective action and also through various activities supporting the SDG 6 action agenda. In following up to the UN Water Conference, as well as the Climate Change Conference, you've done an incredible job of organizing the Water Pavilion for Climate, bringing many partners. Could you please explain briefly SIWI's commitment to the action agenda and the outcome of the follow-up activities? Please share your insight on how these results can be linked to the global climate response.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Alice, for the question. I heard many questions in there, so I will try to respond to them all. At CB, we have made commitments to the Water Action Agenda with a focus on different ways to strengthening the collective action. And also there are various activities as SDG 6, Water Action Agenda special event, as follows up to the UN 23 Water Conference and the Water Action Agenda. We are also committed to empowering the underrepresented groups, such as women, youth, and indigenous people, within water governance. We will continue to work with stakeholders at transnational, national, subnational, and local levels to implement cross-sectoral commitments, partner together with for increased action and on water and climate. We will continue to advocate for others for strong commitments and collective action in support of the UN Water Action Decade, 2018 to 2028, and for an inclusive, holistic, and cross-sectoral water management to be placed at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and the Climate Action Agenda. If I go more specifically into what we will do, I would say that we will work with partners to support ongoing collective action by offering opportunities such as the World Water Week as an annual moment for participants to review, align, and accelerate action on the commitments registered to the Water Action Agenda, and to share solutions that can be upscaled. Continuing to develop and disseminate holistic water governance knowledge, good practice, and to foster learnings across constituencies and for increased impact. We will support governance mechanisms for universal and sustainable water and sanitation services in countries where we work directly or with partners. We will offer, among other things, capacity development of new guidance tools, support for new policies, national and local plans, and coordinating mechanisms, and for enhanced regulation and accountability measurements. We will create spaces for voices to be heard in different forums, such as the advocating activity for gender equality, youth empowerment, indigenous people's perspectives, and values and human rights-based approach to support the most vulnerable and underrepresented. We will continue to championing the source-to-sea approach to address current and emerging governance and management challenges in holistic cross-sectoral manner, accounting for activities and impacts on land, freshwater, near shore, and in marine ecosystems, including transboundary context. We will continue to host the action platform for source-to-sea management, the EST source-to-seas platform, as a mechanism to build community of peers, establish an evidence base, strengthen commitments, and get source-to-sea action on the ground for an ever-growing community of diverse actors that collectively contribute to the Water Action Agenda. And I will pause here and say we did a fantastic event a few days ago together in the Ocean Pavilion. So we are also connecting our work into the marine environment. And I think that's the way we want to approach it. We want to have holistic perspectives. So we will promote the cooperation of shared waters as a catalyst for peace and conflict prevention by providing support to governments, basin organizations, and relevant stakeholders with tailored capacity development and dialogue support. CB is further committed to support inclusive transboundary processes with knowledge development, including research on water cooperation, water diplomacy, and water governance. Specifically, as it's related to climate, we will support and reinforce countries' capacities to develop and implement resilient water governance, management and services through ambitious and interconnected climate and water policies, and strengthening the NDCs and the NAPs. Sorry, I lost myself in my notes. In coherence with national development processes. Continue to drive action in cooperation with members of the Water for Climate Pavilion Collective. Thank you.
All right, thank you. clearly a very impressive agenda in terms of the work that you are doing and also your commitments for future work to continue and scale up. Thank you very much, Thomas. The issue of innovation has been mentioned as a key issue that, for instance, Care Water is actively pursuing. And I know some of the key ongoing initiatives, including water treatment through artificial intelligence leak detection system. And we've heard from the ambassador from the special envoy from Tajikistan how the MDBs are committing to double the funding for water until 2026. That means we need to increase in terms of scale and speed, and also build on the work you're doing on capacity building. And innovation becomes a very, very key part of that. As an international research for development organization, the International Water Management Institute combines research with a very practical action for sustainable management of water resources as well as knowledge services. Dr. Youssef Bozin from IMI, could you kindly share any research and experiences you have done on the linkages between innovative water solutions to adaptation to climate change, but also to mitigation? I think we heard from the minister that water is not just adaptation, but it's very much also, you need lots of energy to pump. So share your insight on the IMI's perspective on innovative solution to address adaptation and mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the question, and big thanks to to KW and also EWC for the invitation. I would like also to thank you, Your Excellency, for your brilliant speech, but also for your efforts to mainstream water in the climate agenda. This is exactly one of the things that we are striving for at the IMI, International Water Management Institute, along other organizations, including CIWI and others. So IMI, International Water Management Institute, as you said, is an international non-profit research for development organization. We are based in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, with country and regional offices in Asia and Africa. Today I will make you travel to my region, Middle East and North Africa. So we have an office in Cairo in Egypt that I'm supervising. And from Cairo we work in Middle East and North Africa, from Morocco till Iraq. So IMI has a mission is to contribute to a water secure world. So we do that through research, obviously. So we try to understand the issues around water with our partners. We try also to provide solutions and innovations within the political arena, technological, and also social and economic landscape. To try to answer your question, I will probably provide three examples that we are providing in the Middle East and North Africa in this regard, where we are trying to link the water system. So we prefer to call it water system, to the both efforts, adaptation and mitigation. The MENA region has a lot of challenges, and food security is one of the biggest challenges. They are we have actually 4 out of the top 10 importers of wheat, for example. So food security is really a big challenge, and all countries and governments are doing a lot to tackle this issue. Water has a lot to do in this regard, obviously. So we are trying to look at how climate smart agriculture can be expanded. So climate smart agriculture is relying on 3 pillars: productivity, obviously, but also adaptation and mitigation. We just launched a study recently in North Africa region, where we are looking at the status of this framework, and obviously with no surprises, most of the focus in this region is mainly productivity, yield, and then adaptation come as second. Obviously, almost no focus on mitigation so far. So a big area to focus on in this regard, especially that these countries have a very ambitious climate agenda and renewables, and also mitigation, also reduction of GHG emissions. So agri-food system has a lot to do in this regard. And here we put our hat as CGR, part of the CGR family. So IMI is also part of the CGR family, and we strive for a sustainable and also resilient agri-food system. So we are looking at climate smart agriculture as a tool, how we can accommodate from technical, but also from social and also political perspective, how regulation, laws, and policies can enable environment for this kind of doing farming. The second example is regarding wastewater and reuse. So EMI has a very long history in driving the reuse, mainly in the region, also in South Asia. So we just closed a flagship project in this regard in the region called Rewater MENA. So where we looked at policies, regulation, laws in regard to wastewater treatment and reuse, mainly in agriculture, but also we looked at business models to enhance this sector. We looked also at the gender perspective, the role of women and vulnerable communities in regard to wastewater reuse, and also we looked at the environmental aspects. So a lot of evidences are coming from there. For example, I will say only 2 figures here. So according to our estimations, if we recover nutrients from only municipal wastewater, we can fertilize, we will have enough of nutrients to fertilize 2.6 million hectares in agricultural productivity. So you can imagine the potential here. In regard to energy, if we recover the carbon in only municipal water again, we can also provide energy for 8 million houses. So big potential within circular economy, and also where also, of course, mitigation is here because we will be using renewable energy in this regard. So we didn't finish here. So yesterday we were very proud to launch one of the new projects in this regard, Rewater, with Google Foundation. So we will be mainstreaming AI, artificial intelligence, to also understand the potential for expansion in reuse and treatment in 3 key countries in the region, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Egypt. We will work with these governments and also private sector to understand the potential of expansion in these countries. A lot of potential to biogas and to sludge for energy. Again, this will help these 3 countries in their NDCs and climate agenda. The third example is from investments and also entrepreneurship in combined adaptation and mitigation efforts. So we are part of a flagship project in MENA called We4F, Water Energy for Food, Regional Innovation Hub. We are 4 organizations. We are helping 38 startups and SMEs working in Nexus, where both adaptation, resilience, and also mitigation are there. We've got very strong monitoring and evaluation learning system where we are tracking their progress, their performance over both stewardship in terms of the environment, preservation of water aquifers, and also the air quality, but also in terms of saving energy and also carbon sequestration. So, and they are rewarded. They are rewarded in their efforts through grants and also matchmaking with finance institutions who are interested in this kind of business models. I will stop here, and hopefully I will have a chance to give other examples later on. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. And I think your response clearly highlights the importance of these linkages, cross-sectoral linkages between water, energy, agriculture. And I think really talking about energy, there's been a lot of conversations in this COP and coming to this COP on the issue of carbon neutrality in the energy sector as well as in the water sector. International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, Simon, in terms of achieving SDG 6 and carbon neutral goal by 2050, which many countries are striving to, including the EU, could you please share your insight into achieving carbon neutrality in the energy sector, but would like to go beyond just the energy sector? How would you see that work in terms of carbon neutrality in the water sector as well, based on your experience from IRENA? Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Annyeonghaseyo. Very happy to be here today. Thank you for Keywater and AWC for the invitation. Let me start by saying there is no climate action without water action. So we need to find solutions that are linked together to solve the problem at stake at COP. From IRENA perspective, as an intergovernmental organization representing 168 member countries, I'd like to echo Mr. Special Envoy that the need for massive consideration of the existing and the need for new hydropower facilities. I think that's a very important aspect that will come from the tripling renewable energy pledge with the doubling of energy efficiency. We need to look at that very importantly. We need innovation to modernize hydropower. We need also to address the environmental consideration that will limit or slow down the process of developing new hydropower facilities. So we need innovation to develop sustainability criteria for hydropower. For us, that's one of our first, let's say, message as well. We need to preserve and ensure that those considerations do not reduce, let's say, the adoption of this solution, which is fundamental for climate action. Secondly, we believe that addressing SDG 6 regarding water demands to look at the interlink or interdependency between the energy and water sector. For that, we need to look at what are the critical aspects, and some of our analyses have already shown that we need to look at what are the emerging innovation in different angles, but also what are the policies that we can develop to really develop energy solutions that are mindful of water conservation, preservation, and so on. And obviously, as I mentioned, hydropower and others, we need to integrate sustainability criteria in the solution we choose. The first mega trend we see in the energy transition is that we are moving from a more centralized power system to a more decentralized power system, which means that there is, for example, for water production facilities, there is opportunities to collocate energy and water production. Therefore, you can maximize efficiencies in the design of those, let's say, generation assets. I can quote the example of building a solar panel in water generation facility, which not only reduce the bill of this energy-intensive process, but also reduce water evaporation. So that's a benefit, I would say, of collocating two assets into one single part. The second part as well, and we are here in the MENA region, is that a lot of countries will want to strengthen their desalination capacity. I think here as well, it's an immensely energy-intensive process that requires different solutions depending on the size of the solution. We see already, you mentioned the case of Saudi Arabia, which already adopt reverse osmosis powered by solar PV as an, let's say, large-scale solution for desalination. There is other solution like solar thermal, geothermal that can also power the future generation of desalination facilities. You mentioned that the case also on AI, which also we see as an emerging aspect to consider. Those facilities will require to optimize their consumption. And we see, for example, Google, you mentioned the adoption of algorithm, AI algorithm already reduce the consumption for cooling certain specific processes. So as well, by studying the pattern throughout the day and also looking at how to optimize, so for example, shut down certain processes at specific time when it's not needed to power the entire facility, you can greatly reduce the energy consumption, which at the end will make water more affordable and more available for everyone. As well, the resulting case that it's not only a question about supply, it's also a question about demand. And we believe that implementing demand response program in water utilities can yield benefit. For example, you can adjust the cycle of water pumping or the different treatment processes to adjust based on the pricing of energy. So for example, maybe you can centralize the certain processes where you will have the lowest cost of energy, which will become a dominant dynamic in the energy system, because you have the viability of solar and wind that will be paired with storage systems, and you will have time of days where you have a cheaper source of energy compared to others. So I think the flexibility within water utilities will also enable a smarter demand response. Last but not least as well, the case of the important in many developing economies, the aspect related to agriculture and small-scale solution. On one side as well, we see a lot of solutions being developed to use, on one hand, to power water water irrigation system with renewable energy, the very simple solar irrigation systems, but as well the use of data analytics as well to understand what are the pattern and how to optimize the distribution around a specific location. The second aspect is a lot of countries, especially in Africa, are developing microgrid, mini-grid solution, where you can include, as part of the design, aspect related to water production. So developing along your solar panel or small wind solution that can also transform water to have more fresh water available for the community, the village or the group of village. West Africa, for example, has already developed those solutions. So at the end, those are an example of solutions that were adopted to smart policies also in many parts of the world, but we need more focus on the intertwined benefits between water and energy because they are linked together and they serve the same purpose of providing utility to communities.
All right, thank you, Simon. I think clearly what's emerging here is, I mean, the linkages. What you've mentioned, water, energy, and I would add food, based on Dr. Yusuf from IMI, and also nature, ecosystems. I think that nexus becomes really crucial. Carbon neutrality in the energy sector cannot be separated from carbon neutrality in the water sector. I think this is really the core message. And earlier we heard from Siwi, from Thomas, governance is very important as well as capacity. But again, at the same time, to make all these things work, investment has been mentioned, the issue of money. So I'm going to turn now to the Green Climate Fund and later on to the Asian Development Bank. Because you are the money people here, right? To make things work finally. Now, Dr. Babuni is the senior specialist for water, the Green Climate Fund, and the GCF is developing a number of projects and very involved in many. And congratulations on your increased replenishment over 12 billion. I think record breaking. So from GCF's portfolio, current and now, how you see it emerging. Can you share some good practices, building on what the previous panelists have said, around adaptation and mitigation, focusing on water as well as energy? Good practices in terms of pre-development, what you are seeing, the trends that are emerging across Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, wherever you are engaged in the GCF. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Alex. And thanks again. I'd like to maybe echo with my previous speaker that water is a climate change problem, and if you really want to solve the climate change problem, you have to make the water resource management right. And if you look at this 2023, this year probably the most noise actually water sector able to make is starting with the UN Water Summit, then International Water Week, and I think there has been so much pledge as well as commitment has been made. But then the point again raised actually how we actually make those commitment into an action and where is the financing is actually coming from. We actually wrote a small strategic document that how we want to achieve or see 2030 goal as our executive director has been promised a 50 by 30. So that means we'll be mobilizing $50 billion by 2030. But in the water sector, we calculated we need actually more than $130 billion per year if you want to actually achieve some of the water goal to solving those problems. But then who has the money and how we actually mobilize this money in a more catalytic way. But one of the biggest challenge, not only for water sector, but also whole adaptation cycle to bringing actually the private sector in, because this is not so sexy, this is not so attractive for private sector to invest in the water market, like energy, because energy is quite interesting. And also there's a huge gaps between the culture as well as behavior to willingness to pay for the water, because we always think actually water as a free goods. So what GCF is trying to look at actually within its strategic framework, how we actually make a water as a more nexus approach, as well as how we make it as an integrated approach. So we are looking for 5 basically thematic area to packaging project. One is actually water conservation as well as retention. So how we actually enhance the water supply system, wastewater management, as well as non-revenue water loss. And that's one of the biggest challenge actually the private sector doesn't want to come and play a critical role. But how we can actually influence them, that is actually quite important. And second is looking at hydrological observation, risk-based decision making, as well as flood and drought forecasting or water-related hazard forecasting. Even within the water management division, you will see country actually doesn't look at drought and flood in a seamless way. It's actually quite separate, as silos. But this is if you have what we are talking about, more water or less water or no water. So it actually has a quite a strong relationship, and we need to be look at more integratedly modeling as well as understanding the flood and drought, because every country face flood and drought at the same time. And third one is actually how we achieve the SDG 6. We already know that actually it's actually falling apart, because what we targeted, we will not be able to achieve. But then how we can, what kind of mechanism we can actually put in place so that actually we don't actually fall too much short, but we can actually at least achieve what we promised to the global community. And then the fourth is actually more looking at integrated climate resilience WASH activities. And that also very silos environment, because WASH doesn't go only WASH. WASH need to be connected with the infrastructure, community, and people. So that we are trying to package. And then finally is actually changing the behavior, the capacity building, all these cross-cutting areas. So these are some of the area that we are actually quite strongly focusing in our water strategic plan. And to support to the countries, we develop actually project preparation guidelines, capacity building, so that actually country can access some of the project or package their project in a more innovative way. And the other quite challenging sector is like you don't have actually proper water resource management or water engineer or even hydrologist in the country, so many. If you look at it on developing countries, so how actually we can catalyze, or how actually we can enhance those kind of activities. The reason we are talking about GCF as a catalytic finance, because we not only just provide project, the country can access actually to build their capacity $7 million per year for 4 years time. And if you look at that money for the developing countries, it may be more than their development budget. So how actually we utilize those money to engage the cross-sectoral with the NDA versus water resource management with other utility provider, to bringing together to enhance their capacity to packaging a better project that not only could GCF support, but also other MDBs or other climate financing actually quite provide support, those kind of activity. And one of the other activities that we are trying to support more on actually the private sector engagement. So, but if you want to bring the private sector into the space, you need to provide various de-risking instrument. And I think this GCF is one of the unique organization in that space, that we provide all sort of financial instruments. So you can access the highly concessional loan, you can access grant, you can access equity, you can access guarantor, insurance, all sort of instrument is there. So anybody who like to actually utilize those instruments, it's just a greatest opportunity for them to come and invest their money. And to investing their money, you need to have an ecosystem and policy and environment. And when we actually receive some sort of commitment from our leaders, it's actually quite promising that actually if we can provide those kind of ecosystems, it would be provide an enabling environment to private and public actually engage together and investing their money to enhance the water security. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Baboon from the Green Climate Fund. I think, you've really highlighted a range of interventions of what the GCF is doing, and something I really like, not very powerful, to be honest, but influencing behavior change. Because the GCF is often seen as too projects-oriented, but it's interesting that you highlight the importance of behavior change to make the sector more interesting and more attractive, also to the private sector, and also using a variety of innovative financing instruments. On the 2nd of December, the African Union Heads of State launched an investment plan for climate resilience water investments in Africa to mobilize at least 30 billion by 2030. And one of the actions being proposed there is to explore the establishment of an international blended facility, innovative blended facility, that can use all these different innovative financing instruments to make the sector more attractive to attract private finance. Not sure how this would really work, but we know Asian Development Bank, I think you are right ahead of that. Last May, ADB introduced what's called the Innovative Finance Facility for Asia, Climate Asia, and also in the Pacific region. A new financial program to respond to climate change. Dr. Satoshi, would you also kindly give us a brief explanation of what this, it's called IFCAP, Innovative Finance Facility. What is IFCAP, what is it about, and what are the kind of projects that you are currently working on, and the kind of instruments that you're also using or intending to use? Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much, first, for inviting ADB on this very interesting panel. Apparently, K-Water and Asia Water Council is our strong partner, and we have been working very closely on the various issues, and we are very happy to be here. Thank you very much for bringing this IFCAP, which was we launched at this annual meeting this year in Korea. And this is really kind of the program that we are designing to escalate or strengthen our capacity to bring more money into the climate finance. Maybe I'd like to step back and then just explain that 2 years ago, ADB has pledged to provide the $100 billion climate finance before 2030. And then since then, this will be our big target and then to achieve. Last year, we have been discussing internally reorganize ADB structure to cater this so that the, for example, myself, now I'm in strategy and partnership, who used to be sitting in the, the strategy department, which is a different department as our operations. Now my team is fully integrated with the operations so that those strategy on climate change, water, all this issue will be directly influencing our operations decision making. We also going for the region to the sector approach so that we have to bring water is cutting across to agriculture, energy, we all talking about it. So we are all under one senior director general. Every sector group is working in a way that collaborate together. So ADB is changing this reorganization happened this year, actually. And then to cater that, we also strengthen our financial base. One of the things in parallel to go with this IFCAP is really that this is a bit of MDG jargon, but we call it the CAF review, Capital Adequate Framework, which actually meaning that, ADB is normally having around 22, 25 billion US dollar portfolio every year. We are signing the loan agreement to cater more the bringing more money into this climate change and then to Asian Pacific region. We are actually asking our board of directors to take even more risk without affecting our credit rating to raise more money so that we can bring more money into the market. So now we actually, as a first in MDB, approved on that. So our capacity to lending will become 10 billion more annually, meaning that now we can bring 32 to 35 billion US dollar to the market in every year. And this IFCAP is also another facility to bring more money into it. Basically, this is the discussion with a partner like Republic of Korea, Japan, US, Denmark, Sweden, UK is ongoing. This is actually those partners giving us a small grant money, but together with the guarantee to the ADB sovereign loan portfolio. So this is kind of innovative. So those partners are guaranteeing our debt so that this creates a space for ADB to mobilize more money from the market. So this actually $3 billion US dollar guarantee now we are talking about enable us to mobilize additional 15 billion US dollar. So ADB is also trying to strengthen our financial base as well as our structure to cater to those large target of 100 billion US dollars. So this is really kind of one of the innovative approach within ADB to bring more money into this important agenda. And so far, of course, those additional 15 billion US dollar will be used for the much needed, the climate change, the water related, some energy transport related activities. And then we haven't really, in a way, the started which project is earmarked for this IFCAP or not. But then we have been increasingly creating a lot of interesting projects which has much higher so-called climate finance. So, MDB again is talking about, we have an envelope of, let's say, 23 billion US dollar, for example, this year. And then how much of them will going into the climate finance? And then we have to really significantly increasing the portion of it. For example, one of the interesting projects we had in Bangladesh in Coastal Towns Climate Resilient Project, which is actually working with the 22 coastal town in a 10 coastal district, which is super vulnerable to the climate change, sea level rise. We have been having the sector loan to bringing the around 250 million US dollar loan. Actually, 73% of that money is accounted for the climate finance. So this is a huge jump from our current average of around 40% of the climate finance. So ADB really has to do more upstream engagement with the country. We used to have this business model of doing climate proofing of our project, but climate proofing is not good enough. We have to really make our project climate resilient water urban project. So this actually, bringing our climate financing percentage much higher, and then this is something that ADB is really trying to move forward. And of course, partnership is really, really important. I'm really happy that we have been very closely working with SIWI. We are going to sign up very soon with the Source to Sea initiative. Now our paper is on the Vice President's desk. Hopefully she's going to sign very soon. And the Yumi is also a member of our Water Advisory Board. And then, of course, GCF has been, always our partner to working together. So partnership together with, of course, in this case, K-Water and AWC, ADB has been very, very strongly collaborating under our strong MOU, which is happening, which is ongoing another next 3 or 4 years. All these partners, we want to work together to how to make sure, those ambitious target of 100 billion US dollar climate finance in Asian Pacific by 2030 will be, delivered. And then, as I said, we are trying to, MDB is always being criticized as slow and too big and so on, that we are relatively fast in, bringing, making sure that more financial capacity on the climate change in our organization. We are also changing our, organization. So now it's really come time to deliver and then working together with everyone. So I just stop here. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Excellent. It's indeed time to deliver. I think we really are very proud and honored by the organizers of this event, K-Water and the Asian Water Council. I think you have demonstrated in practice what intersectoral collaboration actually means by the institutions that are represented. I don't know how you came about it, but it's very, very clear. And I think, Your Excellence, as we move towards the World Water Forum, which will be in Indonesia, next door to Asian Development Bank, we hope we can continue with this spirit of collaboration and maybe have some core announcements about your agreement, which is about to be signed, SIWI, in terms of concrete projects. So we now have about only 5 minutes before the close of our session. So I would like us to give a round of applause to the panelists. They've been really great. Thank you, Excellence. Let me now hand over the session to my colleague to handle the closing ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, especially for our distinguished panelists. It was really insightful, and we can accelerate our sectoral cooperation again. This is a good occasion, opportunity. I hope we can work further together. Okay. Thank you once again, Mr. Alex, for your wonderful moderating and for discussion. And thank you for everybody for joining our session. Now, we officially concluded the K-Water and AWC side event under the theme of Catalyzing Cross-sectoral Cooperation to Address the Climate Crisis, focusing on water sector and beyond. Thank you very much.